welcome back to Newfoundland and Labrador Studies 2205. This is Unit 3, The Country Grows, Section 2, Lesson 2, Video 2, on Consequences of the Railway. First, let's talk about the Reid Purchase. Robert Reid was a businessman who made his fortune in the gold mining industry in Scotland. In 1898, Reid was awarded a government contract to finish the railway, which we talked about in the previous video. Reid agreed to operate the railway for 50 years, after which it would become the property of his successors. He also operated the steamship ferry to Nova Scotia, the telegraph service, and a streetcar system in St. John's. The government subsidized this deal. Reid would pay the government $1.5 million and wanted to transfer his Newfoundland holdings to a limited company. The people were divided on the deal. There was a view that the government was giving away many of the colony's assets. Additionally, this gave Reid a monopoly, not guaranteeing the railway would be run properly and discouraging other entrepreneurs. There was a compromise in 1901 where Reid gave up ownership of the telegraph service and future ownership of the railway with compensation. The Reid Newfoundland Company came into existence to manage Reid's assets. This was often referred to as a sellout. And the question remains with government and private concessions, which we'll talk about other private investments as we continue through this unit and our last unit. The question is, at what point do the concessions thought necessary to attract developers become a sellout? Of course, there were consequences to the railway. The record of the Reid era is one of continuous losses, despite efforts to run a profit. The company shut down operations in May of 1922 for a week, after which the government agreed to provide operating funds until July 1923. Then at that time, the government took over the railway with the Railway Settlement Act. Under the Act, the government acquired the railway, coastal boats, and the Reid Dry Dock for $2 million. By 1933, a decade later, the railway had cost the government $42 million. That's in 1933. And it's estimated to have accounted for 35% of the public debt at the time. There was a lot of mismanagement and different things that went on with the railway. It wasn't cut and dry. But remember last video when we talked about the gaff topsails? A big part of operating costs was snow clearing, keeping tracks free of debris, and fixing the tracks if they had been damaged. These two images here are from central Newfoundland. As you can see, the snow drifts are as high as the train itself. There's a man even standing on top of this train. And that was a big issue that they just didn't know about until the railway was put in place of how much snow there was in the interior. Despite its economic challenges, though, the railway did have positive effects. The construction and operation did create a lot of employment. It connected communities and made it possible for people to travel for seasonal employment. It was also a pull factor for some families to relocate for permanent jobs. The railway was an essential step in diversifying the economy, creating new industries in forestry, minerals, and agriculture. New communities were even established because of it, such as Whitburn, Grand Falls, and Bishop's Falls. Remember, when we continue to do issues analysis, things aren't always cut and dry. Just because there were economic issues does not mean that the railway didn't have positive impacts. A lot of these historical issues are never one thing or the other. There's a lot of tangled different issues and steps you have to think about. So now it's time to review. I'm going to ask you to please complete the activities in Brightspace and have a great day.